Hi. This is my response to the Unfuck Your Brain pandemic podcast. Um, I found this podcast super interesting. Um, I also really like the delivery of this. I can't remember her name, Kara Lewenthal. Um, I love her delivery. She's really easy to understand and she kind of makes everything super just like straightforward and accessible. So I really like that about her. She was pretty much just talking about how you can turn panic into peace by using like critical thinking and being able to kind of like sort through your thoughts and emotions um, during this pandemic. Um, a big thing, that she talked about, or, a theme, and something that I also totally agree with is that um, even before the pandemic, we were all just like on our phones. Um, Looking at the news, looking at social media like way too often, and like checking Facebook or Instagram first thing in the morning, or checking the news first thing in the morning, or whatever, and how it's kind of destructive to our emotions. And I totally agree with that. Um, I mean, I'm also guilty of it too, but so we were already kind of looking at everything too much. But now that the pandemic is happening, everyone is just constantly being, I use the word assaulted because I find it to be a little bit aggressive and like too much when there's too much information coming at me. So we're all constantly being assaulted by information, and like, it's kind of all the same information too. Like it's not super different every time, but all this information about statistics and death and negativity, and it really is all bad because also, as she said, bad news travels fast, or like it, these media companies are benefiting from like broadcasting bad news because it increases their viewership basically, and they're trying to run a business too. So I get it, and that's kind of how the news has always been. But I think that, yeah, everything is sort of negative and it's all kind of the same. Like basically every day, unless there's some brand new headline. Um, I like how she talked about like the amygdala and its function, and then how using like engaging our prefrontal cortex in order for like critical thinking really helps to kind of like balance that out, because we're always going to be anxious, or there's always going to be fears or things that come up in our minds. Um, so we have to be ready to kind of like just fight it away or like think critically to say, okay, sort through it and figure out what's real, what's not, what's true, what is information that we're just making up in our heads and panicking about. um so yeah, that I thought was really interesting. I think that a theme or concept from chapter 8 on emotions that came to mind when I watched this podcast or listened to this podcast was emotion contagion, and how, I'm just going to read it from the book, the passing of a mood from person to person, influenced by individual's ability to respond to emotion in kind or to exhibit a parallel response. So basically, everybody's panicking at the same time, everybody's freaking out, and it just creates more panic and more freak out. And when we choose to constantly be watching the news and be overstimulated by it, and then to kind of let our heads spin out of control as we're digesting that information, and just like honing in on like the fears that we have or the things that are going wrong. Um, and then kind of everybody's feeling that way. So it's like a strong emotion contagion. Like the bad news is traveling fast and everyone's absorbing that energy. So collectively, like our vibe is super panicked, like super panicked, super scared. Everyone's freaked out. Like you see it at the grocery stores. It's like super evident that that's the vibe that people are bringing with them to the store. So yeah, I mean, I totally agreed with everything she said, and I really liked the podcast of hers that we listened to in class. Also, her delivery is just really good, and I think that she makes this kind of information super accessible to everyone.